Zenarilla is a gorilla suit I built for my acrobat daughter, Zena. I started as I usually do with a plastic mannequin head. I didn't have a casting of Zena's head at the time. The sculpture was done in wet clay, and Zena's not a big person. She's a small acrobat, and so I was shooting for a pretty massive gorilla, so I really had to build it out quite a bit. It's a sculpture I took my time on. I changed quite a bit along the way, here and there. The thing I really like about working in wet clay, though, is that as it dries out, it gives you a different texture to work with. It starts out very soft, so you can get your forms very quickly, and then as it dries out, it stiffens up. But it gets to this beautiful level where you can really carve in some fine detail and have some fun with it. So I really did enjoy this sculpture and was really happy the way it came out. I was a little worried about it being too big for Zena, but gotta go for it sometimes. So I did. And once I was really happy with it, I made a quick 2-part mold. And that turned out really well. Cleaned out well, and I did my first cast. My plan was to make the mask out of a rigid neoprene from creature cast rubber, and that way I wouldn't have to fill it and all the usual stuff. Well, I have to tell you this story just so you're aware. Again, my idea was to make essentially a hollow, stiff mask that would be lighter to wear and easier to rig. And so I went with creature cast rubber, which is an air dry neoprene. The casting came out really well. It was a beautiful casting. I was really happy with it. That's me wearing it, so it was certainly big enough for a full-size person. So I had to reinforce the jawline a little bit. This is some wire being neoprened in. And I usually do build up on my mouth interiors, but this time I wanted to try and sculpt up a set. About this time I started noticing that this casting was shrinking a bit. But anyway, I put in all my spacers and got the mechanism together. Got Zena. This is before it's actually fitted to her head. This was just literally to make sure she could get in there. And it was working great. It was looking really good. I was noticing that it was getting a little smaller. Kept getting smaller. And but I decided it's got to stop somewhere. So I went ahead and kept working on it. Furring it up, and was kind of noticing that it didn't look the same. It was changing. And here's the original one that I was just been describing on the right side. On the left side is these both came out of the same mold. So you can see the difference in the shrinkage. The eye holes are matched up. The little one is not behind the other one. It shrank that much. It shrank so much, we couldn't even get it on Zena's head. I don't think it would fit on a kid's head these days. It literally kept shrinking even after this point. So I had to abandon that completely and go for what turned into the final head, which was a different approach. Much more my usual approach of a flexible skin. This was still neoprene, but the super flex version, and backed up backed up with a 2-part flexible foam. I think it was 7-pound foam. I can't remember. I used the castings that I made from out of again flexible. All the usual mechanisms, just rubber bands to close the mouth, and a lot of spacers because this was a big head for Zena, absolutely. And you can see the big spacers in the cheekbones there to get it to fit her, which it did. And then it was time to start furring it up. And fortunately, the foam really did prevent the neoprene from shrinking too much. It did shrink. It still shrunk. And over the course of a year, I had to trim it back to get it to refit to Zena. It had shrunk a bit too much. So furring it up was very straightforward. At first I was going to go for this sort of massive He-Man young bull gorilla, and I liked it, but I wanted to get a little more character out of it, something a little bit different. So I took the forehead hair off and wound up redoing that completely, actually, from scratch. The white hair around the jawline is just spray paint. It's primer. Here you can see just how big this head is on Zena. I mean, literally, it's huge. So here I've getting ready to redo it. I hand laid a whole bunch of Kanickelon hair. It wasn't very good quality, but I had it, and I knew I was going to be painting over it anyway. I couldn't really punch well through the neoprene, so it all wound up being hand laid. And then once I had it trimmed down, I painted it down to where I wanted it to be. And I was really happy with it. I really like the look of this head. Very, very, very much thrilled with it, to be quite honest. The sculpture shows up really well. The forms are what I wanted them to be. And then it was on to the rest of the suit, making a little girl essentially into a big ape. There's a lot of padding on this suit, really a lot of padding. And it's all built over a duct tape dummy of Zena, just scrap foam again. On a we did sew a knit unitard for her. So it was really a matter of getting Zena in all the time I was working on this to just get all the fittings rounded off. I wound up having to make a lot of adjustments to make things move. I tried to do a build-up chest piece with neoprene, and it just didn't work. It was too stiff, and I had to eventually just abandon it and literally throw it away. So I wound up doing a sculpt and running that in flexible neoprene, Superflex, and that's held up okay. But you can see, here's Zena with arms, legs, and head on, and here's how much padding she had on her, which is a lot. And then I did 3 sets of legs. First were the walking legs, and these were cut-down crutches with just foam build-up on them, foam built-up cotton batting, and some flexible neoprene. And they turned out really well, very comfortable. Zena can move very well with those. And, once all the neoprene was dry, it was really simply a matter of putting the fur on and getting them all nicely trimmed down and everything else. They came out well. The regular glove hands are just built up on a pair of cheap gloves, cotton batting, Superflex neoprene, and, a very quick, and as you can see, a very short forearm out of foam. And then it was just, fur them up and they're good to go. The third set was a regular set of arm extensions that I did sculpt up some quick gorilla hands. And the extensions were not for walking. They're just made out of EVA foam tubes. As you can see here, sealed with cloth and neoprene. And then these castings, hand castings, were again mounted on a piece of EVA foam, and there's a little finger grip to pull down. So there was some wrist action in these. And so these are basically the running rampant arms. And all they have is that bit of wrist movement. The feet were, again, regular EVA work mat with some old shoes of Zena's that I put some elastic in instead of shoelaces so she could slide into them. Again, more cotton batting and neoprene, furred them up. And then it was time for the finishing touches, which was painting everything to sort of get it to work. You can see the difference here in the feet. The brown really kicks the plastic quality of the fake fur out. And it came out really good. I was very, very happy with it. Zena is great in it, and it's a suit. I will never, ever use neoprene again for anything. But it did work for this eventually. And Zenarilla became a cool gorilla.